Trying to relax up in the capsule. Sent me up a drink. Jokes, Major Tom. The count goes on. 4, 3, 2, 1. Earth below us, drifting, falling, floating, weightless, calling, calling.
Good morning. Today we'll be discussing the Air Force Core Mission Command and Control, or C2. This brief was created and presented by Chad Weatherwax, Carolina Angulo, and Bo Rogers. The topics that we will be covering are combatant commands, the connection between command and control and the nuclear enterprise, cyberspace, and space. Additionally, we will discuss the non-military instruments of power, their effectiveness with command and control, the potential of non-government and intergovernmental organizations, and concluding with the involvement of sister service components. Combatant command. The space domain, specifically Space Command, operating in, from, and to space as their own COCOM. They are providing space power and information for all other COCOMs, including joint forces. The command and control will connect COCOMs in the area of responsibility, or AOR, by providing intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance of surface forces. This allows subordinate commanders under Joint Force Air Component Commander, JFAC, to execute their mission. Command and control will be instrumental in the weaponizing of space. Multiple joint agencies will be involved in the future of space power. Command and control will be used to improve and increase capabilities that enable military advantage in the space domain. With the global reach of U.S. Space Command, there is potential to be connected to all other COCOMs in the Air Force as well as sister service COCOMs. COCOM connection ensures the ability to respond to threats in the space domain and the surface warfighter. Space Command uses its network of satellites to provide communication for the warfighters. An example of C2 within the Space Command is a forward controllers requesting air assets to their position in the AOR. The combatant commander gives his subordinate commanders the authority to approve those requests. All of this communication is being done through U.S. Spacecom's satellite communication network. Coordinates are being provided to the aircrew in their aircraft via satellite communication with Airborne Warning and Control System, AWACS. Multiple COCOMs working together toward the same goal. As you can see from this slide, the United States Space Command, along with the 10 other Air Force combatant commands. This connection will allow for quick response to threats facing the surface warfighter. I will now hand it over to Carolina.
Thank you so much, Chad. Good morning, leaders. My name is Master Sergeant Carolina Angulo, and now we will talk about command and control in the nuclear enterprise. What falls within nuclear enterprise? Well, the Air Force's entire bomber force, to include the B-52s, the B-1, and the B-2 wings, the Long Range Strike Bomber Program, the Air Force Nuclear Command Control Communications, and C3, and all the operational and maintenance support to these organizations all fall under nuclear enterprise. The Nuclear Matters Handbook of 2020 tells us that nuclear command, control, and communications are necessary to ensure the authorized employment and termination of nuclear weapon operations. This secures against accidental, inadvertent, and unauthorized access, and it also prevents the loss in control of theft or an unauthorized use of nuclear weapons. This fortifies the president's ability to exercise authority and ensures NC3. In order to understand NC3, it is important to define the Nuclear Command and Control, NC2. NC2 is the exercise of authority and direction, established command lines over nuclear weapon operations by the President as the Chief Executive and Head of State. NC2 is supported by a survivable network of communications and warning systems that ensure dedicated connectivity from the President to all nuclear-capable forces. The fundamental requirements of NC2 are that it must be assured, timely, secure, survivable, and enduring in providing the information and communications to the President to make and communicate critical decisions throughout the crisis spectrum. Command and control in cyberspace. Cyberspace presents a very different operational environment than the physical domains where time and space are compressed. Due to the increasing cyber threats around the world, U.S. Cyber Command officially became a unified combatant command in May of 2018. All 4 service commands fall under it. Command and Control C2 options are the Joint Cyberspace Operations within the operational area. The Joint Force Commander, JFC, can choose to exercise C2 through the Joint Staff, through the Service Component Commander, or through the Function Component Commander by designating one of the Service Component Commanders. Many factors weigh in if the JFC selection, most notably the type and availability of forces and capabilities to accomplish the assigned mission. Additional to the factors, this can also include host and friendly nation support, different levels of commitment, coalition forces, enemy capabilities and actions, and environmental limitations. Command and control within space. The United States Space Command conducts operations in, from, and to space to deter conflict and, if necessary, defeat aggression, deliver space combat power for the Joint Combined Force, and defend U.S. vital interests with allies and partners. U.S. SpaceCom has 2 subordinate commands: the Combined Force Space Component Command, the CFSCC, which plans, integrates, conducts, and assesses global space operations in order to deliver combat-relevant space capabilities to combatant commanders, coalition partners, and the joint force and the nation. The second component is the Joint Task Force Space Defense. They conduct, in unified action with mission partners, space superiority operations to deter aggression, defend the U.S. and its allies' interests, and defeat adversaries through the continuum conflict.
C2 and its use with the DIME model, instruments of national power and the range of military operations. The ability of the U.S. to advance its national interests is dependent on the effectiveness of the United States government in employing the instruments of national power to achieve national strategic objectives. The appropriate government officials, often with NSC direction, normally coordinate the employment of instruments of national power. As you can see from this slide, the DIME model is represented by this chart. DIME is diplomatic, informational, military, and economic. Command and control is important in any military organization. It is proving to be especially important in the U.S. Space Command, considering all the joint partners involved. The use of non-military instruments to gain superiority and buy-in from our allies is important to the mission of the U.S. Space Command. Range of military operations comes in and should dictate which portion of the DIME model we should be using at any given time. The use of military force should be carefully integrated with other instruments of national power to achieve our objectives. Employing the DIME model with C2 will utilize the broad spectrum of resources we have throughout the government, military, and non-military. This will encourage our allies to continue to partner with us in developing guidelines and rules of engagement in the space domain. Utilizing the DIME model can help the Space Command focus on non-military issues that our near peers may be trying to exploit in order to compete with us. U.S. Space Command mostly operates in the gray zone. According to the Center for Strategic and International Studies, countries like China and Russia increasingly use non-military means to achieve their objectives. These gray zone actions include election meddling, economic coercion, and the ambiguous use of unconventional force. Below the level of war, gray zone conflicts pose a challenge to U.S. efforts to pursue its interests. On this slide, you can see an example of the conflict spectrum and where the gray zone lies on that spectrum. All the way to the left, you see peaceful cooperation, and all the way to the right, you see nuclear war. Everything in the middle is gray zone. Command and control must be unified when dealing with adversaries operating in the gray zone. Vertical unity of its effort is the C2 chain from president down to the junior person supporting the mission. Horizontal unity of effort is how different organizations integrate and cooperate with each other, even though they have different missions and cultures, but have a common purpose and unity of effort. I will now hand it over to Bo for non-governmental organizations.
Got it, Chad. As you can see, Joint Publication 3-08 defines non-governmental organizations as a private, non-for-profit organization that is dedicated to alleviating human suffering. NGOs are worldwide and can be found in the harshest environments. Oftentimes, commanders have a responsibility to coordinate, synchronize, and integrate actions with NGO representatives on the deck. A few examples of NGOs are Doctors Without Borders, International Red Cross and Red Crescent Movement, and the United Nations Education, Scientific, and Cultural Organization. A few common characteristics with NGOs is that they share similar objectives in the short term, and we can share resources such as food, water, and information. So how does this relate to command and control, and specifically address competition in the space domain? Command and control is the process of receiving, interpreting, and understanding information, and then making decisions accordingly. By maintaining space domain, military units can have a faster and more accurate data of what is happening on the ground, whether it's rescuing NGO hostages or identifying high-impact areas that need the most relief. Working with NGOs, the commander will have to make a decision based on information received from space, people on the ground, and his experience or to his unit. The two largest and most well-known intergovernmental organizations that the U.S. belongs to is the North Atlantic Treaty Organization and the United Nations. The North Atlantic Treaty Organization, or NATO, consists of 30 countries whose mission is to protect freedom through political and military alliances. The United Nations is an intergovernmental organization that focuses on diplomacy and international care. The main purpose of the United Nations is to maintain peace, address international problems such as food and water shortage, and unite multi-government actions. As a leader in space, the U.S. will be relied on to assist in sharing information and technology. That is already apparent in our actions now through humanitarian assistance and international relations. At the same time, competition of space domain will require a collective effort of allied nations. As NATO and the United Nations build a hierarchy, there will be some type of command and control over space. A form of command will have to be developed as countries explore the space above and have a desire to claim their place. While the sister services will most likely not have a huge domain in space arena, they will have partnerships with the Space Force by capitalizing on Space Force capabilities. A recent example of joint collaboration is the implementation of the military GPS user and equipment. This joint service program was developed to monitorize all U.S. military GPS receivers in accordance with the M-Code certification. In September 2020, the Marines were the first service to get certified on the Joint Light Tactical Vehicle, or the JLTV. The M-Code increment allows for commanders to communicate with improved resistance to jamming, exploitations, and faster and more accurate performance. These details will become vital when facing enemy on the ground, air, sea, cyber, and space. As a nation, we will become leaner and more agile with increased flow and accuracy of data. The M-Code also sets the standard of space domination with continual efforts to escalating devices to increment level 2. So in conclusion, we spoke about Space Command and how they will provide space power and information for all other COCOMs, including joint forces. We gained a basic understanding of the command and control relationship between the nuclear enterprise, cyberspace, and space. Additionally, we examined the dynamic of the DIME model in relation to the command and control and the competition of space domain. And lastly, we reviewed the relationships between non-governmental organizations, intergovernmental organizations, and sister service partnerships, and how command and control will be interlaced with worldwide organizations. We thank you for your time and will now be available for any questions.